Okay, so good morning, everybody, and welcome to the next PA Forum Zoom call series. We're really delighted today to be joined by an absolute veteran for the industry, Lucy Brazier. She's amazing. She supported us since day one, really, and we're really, really grateful. Lucy was due, well, hopefully is still due to host our conference in September. So we're hoping that we might be back on track for that, and we've got a session with Ask Lucy today. So welcome, Lucy.
Hi Dan, really great to be here.
How are you?
Yes, I'm good, not too bad at all, thank you. Doing a lot of projects that I've been putting off for ages because I was too busy. I'm sure a lot of you are finding the same thing, huh?
Yeah, it's been absolutely, it's been one of those. I've started doing a social media marketing course this morning and digital marketing. I'm learning Spanish, which you might be able to help me with potentially.
Get on.
So I'm trying to do as much as I can. I hope you are too. So I thought what we'll do, I'll crack on with some questions and then we can open up the floor then to all the questions that people might have towards the end. So the first question that we have today is, so what do you think the PA role may look like when we all return from furlough, i.e. our bosses have done without us, their EA or their PA, and thus I fear that may influence decisions about what they need from us going forward. I guess it's a fear or concern really of what can we do to counter that.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting, isn't it? Because they have said for years that EAs can't work from home. They couldn't actually do without the EA in the office. And now a lot of you are actually managing, funnily enough, to work from home and still support, whether you like it or not. To me, I think I'm getting a lot of feedback on social media, a lot of people messaging me saying, I really don't know what I should be doing. And I'm talking to my executive and they are saying, oh, don't bother me. I don't know what I want you to do, or I don't have anything for you at the minute. Just go and do whatever it is that you need to do. And that means that you're not very clear about how it's all going to work, and you're feeling like they are not going to see your value. And what I would say to that is that we've been talking forever about the fact that really you need to be proactive rather than reactive. And it's almost that you need to be saying to your executive, you know, I need 10 minutes a day with you, because if you give me 10 minutes a day, I can give you 50% of your time back. And then go with the questions. Either go with questions that you're going to ask them that are going to mean that they are going to have to tell you what it is that they want. And the whole secret to this, I think, is communication. Yes. So things like, explain to me what your priorities are this week. What are the things that you absolutely hate doing that you're doing at the moment that I could take off your plate? What did you find? What are you finding is most time consuming that maybe I could do for you? Are there any research things that you need me to do? You know, are you trying to pull together stacks? Are you looking at various clients that you want information on? Do you want me to take a look at the stuff that we're spending, the money that we're spending in the background, and see whether there are any ways that we could save money? What is it you're worried about? I don't know. There's a whole heap of things actually that you could be doing, I think. And it is about being proactive. To me, you are the guys who are amazing at procedure and process, and nobody else in the business does that. So as a CEO myself, I know, and I'm not going to get into personalities because it takes far too long, but I know that I border between being, wow, this is so amazing, this is a really great opportunity if we're having a good day, and oh my goodness, what is happening? I'm bored already. Let's be quick, be fast, be done, get out of here. And I think I never really look at the detail in things. I'm always looking at the bigger picture and how we move forward, especially at the moment. If you've got an executive that is in a panic because they're not quite sure how this is going to pan out, and they're looking at how they manage everybody, and they're looking at whether in some cases the business will survive or not, actually being able to get on and do that, and you being in a situation where you can give them back time so that they can concentrate on that, is particularly important.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much. Can everybody still hear Lucy?
Putting procedures in place, putting processes in place. Can you all hear me okay?
Yeah, you're back now.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. so that we can get on with doing the things that we're really amazing at. And of course, there are all sorts of processes and procedures that weren't there before that are going to be needed now. I mean, had your boss thought about what happens if people end up being off sick, or what happens when people want to take holiday over this process, over this period, or what's the process just from if you're wanting to get a new computer because your old one has broken, or think about all the things that are going to be needed from people working from home that maybe they haven't had time to think about up until now. Does that make sense? Because I think we've been talking for so long about how AI might take over our roles, and we agreed that actually that isn't likely to happen unless you're an assistant that is purely task-based and reactive. The way to save yourself from that, and exactly the same way to save yourself from that in this crisis, is to be proactive and to go and say, here's a list of things I think that maybe I could do for you, or to ask the right questions. And then when you go back, they're going to really understand what your value is, and you're not going to be at threat at all. If anything, it's an opportunity to step up and lead, but lead the things that you're amazing at, so that they go, wow, we absolutely can't do without her. She's somebody who's just phenomenal. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. If you've got questions, please feel free as we go along. Okay. Are there many of us that haven't been furloughed? Are you all furloughed at the moment?
No. I am.
No.
Got quite a mix for me.
I find the whole furlough thing really bizarre. I mean, when we first went into lockdown, I said to my team, because I mean, we're a tiny business and we always live hand to mouth to a certain extent. And I said to my team, I'm going to do the budget. I'm going to work out exactly how much we need to make in order to keep paying you. And then everybody in the team knows what that is. So we're all working towards that, and we're checking it every day to see how we've done against goal and everything else. But if I was to furlough them, the government would pay me 80% of their salary, but they're not allowed to do anything.
No.
And I have to pay them up front before the business reimburses me. So what's the point in that? I've got a whole load of people that aren't working. We're selling no product, and therefore we're not paying tax. It just seems bonkers to me.
The furloughing scheme's meant to be up and paying. It's meant to be alive on the 20th of this month.
But nevertheless, what it would mean is that I was paying my staff to sit at home and do nothing. Whereas actually, as a business, if we're going to survive, we all need to be doing. Surely. Yeah. And if we're making money, then that means we're paying the government tax. So it just makes no sense to me at all. But I suppose for some industries it would, where they really can't work, you know, maybe service industries or face-to-face.
Yeah, because who I work for is a heating company. So at the minute we can't get to customers' houses to fit the heaters.
Yeah.
So we're stuck.
Yes, and we're in the middle of moving, and believe me, the battle that I have had, well, we were meant to be in Spain 2 weeks ago, and all my belongings are sat outside Spain on a van because we went into lockdown just as we moved. But trying to get broadband installed into the place where we're going to be staying has been a really interesting experience. And I discovered that the only people still doing broadband are Virgin.
Oh,
nobody else will come into your house.
Wow. Oh my goodness. I can't believe you're having to move while this is taking place as well. Oh my goodness. Oh wow. I mean, the next question that we've had here, Lucy, is about people's moods, obviously, during this time, because as someone's put here, how would you approach dealing with an executive who may have a low mood every now and again? I think obviously during this time, people's moods are going to be completely, you know, obviously up and down. Different emotions, etc. But I mean, in general terms, have you got any advice on what you could do to try and lift their mood?
No, I think the thing to understand is that they are under incredible stress at the moment. I mean, serious stress. They thought they had their goals planned out for the year, and they've got absolutely no clue what's going on, and everything just changed totally. So, you know, of course, they're going to be snappy on occasion, or worried or whatever it happens to be. But as I said, I think the communication piece is absolutely key here. You know, what are your priorities this week? If we get to the end of this week and it feels to you like it's been successful, what does that look like? How can I help you to get there? Matt said to me one day this week when I was a bit, and I snapped at him a couple of times, he laughed and said, would flowers help? I was like, okay, all right, fine. But you know, it depends what kind of relationship you have with your executive, whether you're able to be a bit cheeky. But maybe just do the honest thing. I'm finding honesty with people right now where it felt uncomfortable before, and speaking up is really helping. So say, you know, you're obviously having a really bad day. What can I do to help you?
Yeah. Matt sounds like Matt's a good egg, isn't he? Do you get flowers? Do you see?
No, I don't. He was being facetious, but that's all right.
Oh, bless you. No, thank you, Lucy. The next question we've got, and I think it was quite generic when we came onto the call, was people now feel kind of settled working from home. I think maybe, and now time has passed, and people said that earlier that they felt a little bit more settled into a routine. So someone's put here, what should I be doing to ensure that I am at the top? Lots of employers didn't actively encourage working from home before, but with everybody now being forced to, do you think that this will change the way that we work going forward?
I think it's going to have to. I've read some really interesting articles. I mean, I don't think they're going to be able to have us all back in the offices at the same time. And we're certainly not going to want to be as close to each other. And they're talking about health and safety measures, meaning that they're going to have to space desks differently, and you're not going to be able to hot desk. And you're going to have your own space, and it's going to be sanitized, but you've got to be 2 meters away from people, even after this epidemic, because they don't know whether there's going to be a second wave. So I would have thought that there may be a team A and a team B, and team A is in the office and team B is at home, and maybe you swap and there are days you're in and days you're not in. But I think, and that's before you start traveling into work. I mean, think about the number of people traveling on buses and trains and things. And the last thing they want, I mean, they're already talking about this being the biggest global crisis in terms of finance of our lifetime. Probably worse than World War II. The FT today had an article that was saying this was going to be just like the Great Depression, except for if they're not very careful, we're going to go into a second wave of it, and they're not quite sure how that's going to be affected. The thing that really struck me last week, because obviously with the amount I travel, I keep a close eye on that, and actually we're going to be doing an Ask the Expert session, which is going to have the top business journalist on business travel answering any questions that you've got at some point. But Lufthansa and BA are both saying that they don't think air travel is going to get back to normal until 2023.
Wow.
If it ever does. Air New Zealand has just announced that they're going to become a domestic airline and are no longer going to fly abroad.
Oh my God.
That's incredible, isn't it?
Okay.
Yeah, so, I mean, the thing is, I'm sitting there thinking, well, great, we're going to run live in September, and we may well run live in September, but whether people will actually be able to get on aeroplanes and come from abroad, and whether there will be any affordable flights, or in fact any flights at all, is a whole other thing.
Yeah.
So, I think we're going to have to look at that from a business point of view. It makes far more financial sense for them, actually, to say everybody's working from home and we don't need so much office space. It could be a way that they decide to cut costs.
Yeah, well, I think this is a testament as well to say, like you said, if you can put those things into action and still be proactive from home, then you're showing everybody that, I'm at home, this is my space, but I can still deliver all of this, which I think is, is fantastic.
Yes, and you really don't understand how much your procedures and processes stuff is a superpower for you. I couldn't put that level of detail into place if my life depended on it. I mean, really, I'm great at going, I had an amazing idea and I think we should do this and that would be wonderful. And Matt goes, because he knows he's going to have to put the procedures and processes in place to make that work. And the thing you are amazing at is taming chaos. And we are in the biggest amount of trouble and chaos that we've ever been in. So for your executive, to have somebody absolutely calm who says, why don't I take that and just make sense of it and put the process in place, is such a superpower.
Fantastic. Thank you, Lucy. Really appreciate it. The next one we've got here is about skills. So it says, what should I be doing to ensure that I'm at the top of my game? And what are the key skills that you feel we need to develop and maintain going forward?
Oh, okay. So that's a kind of two-part question. And the first thing that I would say to you is that I've been bleating on for ages about the fact that with AI coming, you should be looking at the World Economic Forum Future of Jobs report. And that sounds like it's boring, but actually it's not at all. And there's a lot of very easily accessible stats in that. But that says in there the top 10 skills that you are going to need in order to protect your job, full stop, moving forwards. Because it used to be that we valued facts, and the reason for that was because it was about your ability to retain them. But obviously that is no longer the case, because now you just ask Siri. So, you know, it's going to be things like critical thinking and complex problem solving and creativity and coding, and, you know, there's a whole list of 10 different things there that they're saying you really ought to be working on. Emotional intelligence is on there too, which is great because you guys have amazing emotional intelligence. In fact, we did a survey with Avery 2 years ago, and it proved that you had 18% more emotional intelligence as a role than anybody else in your businesses. So I would go look at that report, because that has a whole load of skills that you're going to need. But the other thing that I would say to you is that it's really shocked me, this situation, how few people really understand the technology that's needed to work from home. And actually, YouTube is a wonderful thing. You can find most of what you need there. There are so many trainers now giving free webinars or very, very cost-effective webinars in how to use that technology. And things like Microsoft Teams, things like Zoom like this, or Trello for project management, or Asana, or Slack, or any of those systems that allow you to really track what you're doing are well worth learning, because, you know, somebody has to understand the processes in order to implement them to the rest of the team. And I think actually it's another way that you can really show your worth, is to say, hey, I've come across this particular app or this particular piece of technology, and I think we should be implementing it, and maybe I could become a super user so that I can show other people how to use it. So anything that helps you to be more efficient and productive. The other thing that I would say is that whilst you've got this time, maybe you want to look at doing an administrative procedures manual, because especially if you're out of the office, that could really work for you. And Julie Perrine from allthingsadmin.com has a free template on her website that you can start putting things in place on there. That document is amazing from a point of view of onboarding new staff, that I know, especially for people who are coming on board at this period of time, that's a really huge thing, needing to be onboarded remotely, and I think that will become more and more of a thing. It's great if you are wanting everybody to do things in the way that you need them doing, and Julie has a list of all the procedures that you should have on there, from your boss's preferences to accounting to even opening the post. You know, but a huge list of things that you could put procedures together for. And I know a lot of assistants who have got pay rises and lots of recognition for putting those together. So probably good for you, probably good for the other staff as well to take a look at doing that. She is on allthingsadmin.com. I will type that down here for you. And it's a free template that she's got. She's wonderful, Julie Perrine. If you want a procedure for anything, she's your girl. I know so she's the queen of procedures, but she takes it to the extreme. I know that her fridge has a diagram on the outside as to how she wants things put away. That level of detail.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, that's brilliant. I might take that one up there. I think someone's put here that they're keen to understand what is trending whilst we're in the middle of this pandemic. So what do you see, Lucy, happening from your own business perspective? And also, you know, is there a strength to people going into the VA community now, or maintaining their, you know, being a personal assistant but working virtually?
I think you're all going to end up being VAs to a certain extent, and I don't, although not a VA in the traditional sense. If you're a VA, then you're employed by yourself and you have to go and find clients. VA's more when I'm talking about it in the way that we would see it at somewhere like PwC, for example, because PwC made all its assistants virtual and they come into the office 1 day a week. So I think, yes, maybe go and have a look at some of those VA websites, because they've got some very useful hints and tips on there as to how to work from home and keep records of time spent and all. VACT, which is Amanda Johnson's website, is the one that 80% of the really top VAs have trained under. And whilst quite a lot of her training is about how you run a business, there's an awful lot on there about how you work from home and get yourself organised as well. Trends, I mean, I think it's really moving. The first 3 weeks before Easter, we saw most things being about wellness and mental health, and a lot of people crashing and burning and not really understanding that working from home is incredibly stressful if you are constantly on online meetings. It takes a lot more concentration to do this stuff than it does to do the face-to-face. And also if you're in the office, you've got lots of people to talk to, you know, you get interrupted, you maybe go make yourself a cup of coffee and things. At home, I can do a whole day straight and get to 6 o'clock and feel slightly woozy because I'm like, what's the matter with me? And I think, oh gosh, okay, so I haven't eaten yet today, you know? So that whole first 3 weeks was really people trying to work out how to do it and stopping getting stressed, and lots of talk about wellness and looking after yourself. And yes, that's important. I think you're going to move into far more, now we're past Easter, well, this is the norm for now, and we're going to have to settle down into it. And how do I do that? And you're going to start looking around for training and ways to make sure that you're up to speed and in front of everybody else. What I'm finding from you lot is that first question that Dan asked is the one I'm getting more than anything else. And every webinar I'm doing is you guys saying, what do I need to do? I'm having so much trouble working out what we need to do. And in fact, because of that, next week is Administrative Professionals Week in the States. And Administrative Professionals Day, which is Wednesday, after Mother's Day and the religious festivals, is the biggest festival in the US. They sell more cards, Hallmark, for that than anything else. And the assistants get taken out to lunch and they get sent on training courses. So it's always a big deal for us. So we always have some kind of campaign. And next week, we're doing a campaign which we're calling Help Us Help You. And we're doing several things around that. So the first is that I'm doing an open letter to the world's executives, basically saying this is how you use your assistant. Please understand that if you give them 10 minutes a day, you could totally change your life, because they will give you back time. And you need to understand that it's the business that employs them, not you. And the business employs them so that they do give you back your time, so that you can spend your time doing what the business is employing you to do. And especially at the moment, that's so important. So that's one thing. We're doing a film, a 10-minute film, which is along the same lines that you're going to be able to send to your executives to say, this woman does nothing but talk to assistants and their bosses, and she's made this film. So if you want to understand how best to work with me, this is how that's going to work. And the other thing we're doing is we're making Zoom and Microsoft Teams backgrounds for 2 reasons. Firstly, because we know some of you who work from home don't necessarily want to be showing where you do work from home, not so much here, but in some of the other countries that we work in, you know, to have a background that looks ordered and, you know, relatively spacious and all that kind of thing, just gives an impression of you. And I think subliminally, you know, seeing a whole load of order sitting behind you works well, but it will also have the hashtag Help Us Help You on there. And what we're hoping is that your boss will go, what does that mean? And then you're going to be able to say, well, this is what that means. This magazine is doing this campaign, and it's all about us asking you the right questions to make sure that we're getting the work that you need us to do, so that it kind of stimulates that conversation. And there'll be all sorts of other things as well, but just follow it, have a look. It will be all over social media next week.
Fantastic, thank you. Sounds like we're very busy, Lucy.
I told you we'd been busy.
Yes. So another question. So we've got a lot of industry leaders are championing a move away from the term secretary for the future aspirations of the EA and the PA profession. What's your views on this? And do you think this road will ever lead to you maybe considering this as part of your brand?
Yes. Definitely. I mean, I think we've been executive secretary now. I took the magazine over from somebody else, and it's been executive secretary forever. It's like, I think we're 26 or 27 years old now. And very much like the Post or the telegraph or whatever. It's an old-fashioned word, and we know that. But I think the connotations with secretary become more and more obvious, as it not being a word that, especially here in the UK and in the States, people want to use. Although in Brazil, which is one of the very few countries in the world that recognises the role as a profession, you actually have to do exams before you can be an assistant, still calls it secretary. So does most of Africa, so does most of Asia. Having said that, I really don't want the negative connotations to be there, and we keep looking at it and going, well, what can we do with it? It's possible we'll rename it executive support or ES journal or something. I'm not sure. We have got a branding agency on board to take a look at it over this period, because whilst everybody's got some downtime, and we've stopped printing the magazine for now, we've only got online access, mainly because we can't post it anywhere other than the UK. So until we come out the other end of this, it's online only, which gives us a good opportunity to look at the magazine and how we might rebrand it.
Okay, fantastic. But I mean, I think it's a brand that everybody knows. You said, obviously you've got such a massive following.
Well, I think the logo, the ES, we will keep, which is why I'm thinking maybe it's executive support, but actually the logo is shorthand for executive secretary. So, that could stay, and maybe we build other things around that.
Yeah, fantastic. And I think a lot of the other questions we've got here is, I think the kind of theme has been a lot, do you see that the role depleting faster than anticipated because of COVID-19 and because people have been furloughed, and what impact does COVID-19 crisis will have on our industry? Many businesses may be looking to recoup costs and loss during this unprecedented time, and maybe looking to reduce overheads. Do you think that the admin support will be targeted, and is there anything we can do to mitigate this?
Yes, I think, okay, let's look back at the last recession. Yes, so in the last recession, they got rid of you, and then they went, oh dear God, we need them, everything's falling apart, and then they rehired you all, and then they got rid of middle management. And that's the point at which you picked up things like events and HR and finance and all the things that you're doing as part of your role. My thought is that if, as I said, you're just doing task-based stuff, if you're waiting to be told what to do and you're sitting there going, I don't know what to do, then, you may have a problem. If, on the other hand, you're being proactive and you're looking for ways to add value. I mean, let's have a think about it. Supposing they're trying to put together a new policy on something, maybe you want to go and do some research for them on what other companies are doing, or, I don't know, just go put together briefing documents, be useful, fill in the gaps that are taking up a lot of their time. I said to somebody that I was mentoring a couple of days ago, think if you imagine that they are sitting physically at a desk and they have a pile of work to do like this, and imagine that you take that pile off them and you take out all the things that you are able to do for them. Basically, you're just doing that metaphorically. Yes? So it's about going through that paper with them. If you were sitting in the same room, they would go, oh, actually, that's something you could deal with, and that's something you could deal with. So it's about having your 10 minutes a day and saying, what out of that pile can I take away from you so that you can get on with doing the things you really need to do in order to run the business. So I don't think you're going away anytime soon, not if you are their proper strategic business partner and you're working with them to make sure that the business survives.
Fantastic, thank you. And I've got a question for myself, really, because what I've seen obviously on the Facebook pages and everything you're sharing on social media, you've got lots of training and learning that you've got available at the moment. Can you tell us more what you've got to share, Lucy, please, and where we can find it?
Okay, so if you haven't found it yet, we have Admin Chat, which is our channel on YouTube, and that has got over 70 hours of free training on there from some of the really top trainers in the world. So, go there, see what you can find, see what you like. We did a campaign earlier in the year, which was #AskForTraining. And right now, I know that in some of your heads, you're thinking, I can't possibly ask for training at the minute. We're in such a bad financial way. But actually, if it's really cost-effective training, and if it's something that's going to really help you do your job better from home and become more efficient, which is going to help them to become more efficient, then it's worth looking at. And the Ask for Training campaign has, in the middle of it, got a skills analysis that says, here are the skills that we would expect an assistant to have. And maybe you can look at that and see where the gaps are. if you go to our website, which I will put in the chat, then you're going to be able to find a link to that Ask the Training campaign. And there's all sorts of backup videos with that as well, which should help you. And then we're about to do Exec Live Global as well, which is in June. And because we obviously can't do any live events at the moment, we decided we would take live, which is our big conference that we do all over the world, global, and do it virtually. So you've got 48 hours of training. And again, it's starting to look like a who's who of the trainers from all over the world. And I think it's currently on sale for 199 quid for 48 hours of training. So it's really worth taking a look at that. But, you know, and there's loads of free stuff there too. The Facebook group is full of free stuff, and we've got various trainers giving, who are announcing webinars they're doing, or giving away chapters of books, or, you know, podcasts, all that stuff. So if you go to the Executive Secretary Magazine Facebook group, you'll find all sorts of inspirational stuff on there.
Fantastic, thank you. Yeah, I've been trying to share as many of those I've seen. The Facebook page is fantastic as well, because it's just, you're just sharing constantly stuff on there that's so useful and helpful. And I do encourage everybody to try, and if you haven't joined the Facebook page, then please do, because there's lots of stuff on there as well.
It's great. It's 8,000 people now, that group, and you know, they're all sharing like crazy. So it's really useful, because it isn't just the same old faces. You'll find that there are some trainers on there from around the world who maybe you haven't seen before, that you suddenly think, wow, that they are phenomenal.
Fantastic, thank you. So I'm just gonna have while I just have a browse through the chat, there's been some great interaction in there. Lots of people sharing what they're doing, if they're still working, how they're supporting their executive, or the, you know, their or the business at all. So thank you ever so much for sharing that. Lots of positivity towards the ES and executive secretary, and we've also got I've got a question here at the bottom. So how do you see coding becoming part of your part of our roles?
I think coding is one of the things that is listed on the World Economic Forum report as being a skill that everybody should have. And actually, if you understand that now 17 different countries are training coding with kids as young as primary school age, it's not about how it's going to be used. It's about the fact that it will just become, like using the internet, something that everybody does. So if you have an opportunity to take a look at it and work it out, it's, you know, 20 years ago when Google got founded, none of us would have thought that we would be all using computers. I mean, I don't know about you, some of you look very young indeed, but I started work at 18 at the local newspaper, where we literally cut and paste things. You know, we had a piece of paper and we would cut something out from last week and we'd paste it on the paper and we'd put it in a piece of plastic, and the courier would arrive and they'd take it away. You know, and I would never have thought at that point that everybody would be sat here with computers. And I think coding is going to be exactly the same. It's just going to become a skill that everybody needs.
Interesting. Thank you, Lucy. So I'm going to open up to the floor now. We've got 15 minutes left. So if anyone's got any questions for Lucy, please use this as a discussion area. Let's get the conversation going. But it would be great if anyone would like to quick fire Lucy and see if they can give us some questions. Anyone? No?
Oh, don't get shy. What are you finding the issues are where you are? I mean, is it consistent? I saw on the Facebook group yesterday, I posted something saying, here are the things that Canva say that we should have at home in order to be effective. We had 8 people who didn't have a computer at home and were still trying to work from home as an assistant. How can you work from home without a computer? But the main one was, I mean, people who didn't have a space to work in. And that's got to be really hard. And how many of you are trying to work with kids as well?
Yeah.
Yes. Look, you're looking remarkably sane, ladies.
What has everybody kind of been doing to try and keep themselves? I mean, if we said that some people have kind of settled into the home working now, but how are you kind of keeping yourself going, motivated every day? Is every kind of that routine? Is people working Monday to Friday still? Are their hours quieting down a little bit? I'm intrigued to kind of see what stage people are at, if they're still working.
Yes, busier than ever. basically. I'm still quite new to my company, so I'm using it as an opportunity to catch up with more training and stuff like that. And then we're so busy because we work in insolvency and restructuring.
Oh man.
So that is absolutely crazy at the moment. So big brands. So I'm just doing what I can to kind of keep everything organised and kind of, yeah, categorising all the emails and stuff like that on the different projects. And yeah, and then personally, I'm just making sure I get out every day and work out and yeah, keep sane basically.
Yes.
Una also runs the PA Guide to Birmingham as well, don't you, Una?
Yeah.
So you've also got that as well.
Yeah. Which has taken a bit of a backseat at the moment, I'm afraid. There's a bit of planning going on in the background with that, though.
I think
I'm
going to say
we've gone back to a bit of a state of normality. So we've gone through quite a large period of furloughing people at FCC because we are classed as critical workers because we support schools and we support hospitals and things like that. But I think this week we've just come out of starting to get back to a little bit of normality, that actually this won't last forever and we need to start planning for what happens next after, you know, everyone's gone through the working from home and the fact that we'll then start going back into a business. What happens then? You know, this won't be forever. So I think we've got into that stage of going to all this, as I say, all these planning meetings and things like that.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good point. I think sitting and thinking about how it is actually going to work and maybe driving it from your point of view as well. You know, here are the things that I've learned from this. And, you know, once we get back to work, how is that going to work? And what can I do to start putting stuff in place for you so that when we do get back to work, you know, again, the policies and procedures and things are all in place.
Yeah, definitely.
I think, Faye, you've got offices in different countries as well, haven't you? So you're probably doing a Faye.
Yeah, we've got 2,500 employees in France. We've got 1,000 employees in Spain and in Romania and in Vietnam. So all of those external locations have all closed now. So we've got pretty much about 90% home working now. We've got a lot of staff who are on furlough because, you know, there's a lot of contracts now that we can't service. So we've gone through that period. We're trying to manage all the inter-country different processes and working with their governments about what they can and can't do with staff. And obviously in France, you've got lots of regulations around staff, around what you can and can't do. So actually it's been an interesting learning curve, really. You know, it's something that none of us have ever experienced in our careers and hopefully will never experience again. But I think the learning curve is something, and also you can see the positives out of it. You know, FCC has never had a work from home policy ever, and I think this process has proved that actually it can be done and it can be managed properly and it can be managed well. So I'm hoping that when we come out of it, we'll see some real change, some real cultural change.
I think they're going to have to, as I said. There's a lady down here in the red top who, bless her, has tried to say something about 5 times. I keep seeing her starting to flash yellow and then she goes quiet. What were you wanting to say?
Yeah, thanks, Lucy. I think just kind of that point that you've very much said about, you know, the procedures and some of the policies and making sure that we're kind of looking at those, reviewing those. And I work for a small company that there's 42 of us, and unfortunately we have had to furlough some staff. And I've picked up from my admin team some of the tasks that I wouldn't necessarily do on a day-to-day. And bless them, that like the team have put their kind of procedures together, and then me trying to follow those, and something that I don't normally do as a daily task. And it's actually that kind of the skills and me having to learn those tasks to be able to kind of support what their roles would be. And I think, you know, I'm sure lots of people are in a similar situation as that I'm in.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, you know, it's taking on some of the things you haven't done before, you know, and as I say, getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. So, you know, maybe looking at doing briefing documents, maybe looking at doing research. But I mean, the age-old things that you keep telling me you want to take from them, things like email triage and calendar management and things where they're saying, oh, I don't let you do my emails. That stuff is now is the time to really go back and present the case. And I think we've been very bad at kind of saying, look, I should be doing your emails, I'm an assistant, you know, that's my job, rather than making the business case. And the business case for doing your executives' emails is that they spend 58% of their time doing email. And if you triage them for them, you can take that down to 12%. So right now they need that extra period of time to be doing things that are right for the business. So presenting it in a business-like way and saying, you know, look, I know we've talked about this before. However, that woman, me, who we were on a webinar with this morning, reminded me that my job is to make you exceptional. And I have some ideas around that, especially in this period of time. You need to be able to fly and do all the strategic stuff that you're paid to do. And me taking your emails off your hands so that I can put them into some kind of system, I'll explain that in a minute, or your calendar really works. I mean, for me with my calendar, I don't really ever look at my calendar. On a daily basis, Matt sends me a list of things that I've got to do today, and if there's stuff I need to prepare for, that's on there too. But he manages it absolutely totally, and that works beautifully for me because it means I never have to turn anybody down. I just say yes to everybody, and then I write back to them and say I'm copying Matt because he's penciled in all sorts of stuff in my calendar, and he'll kill me if I start playing with it. And then underneath the signature, I have a number between 1 and 5. And if it's a 1, you'll be able to talk to me within about half an hour. If it's a 5, it'll be a cold day in hell before you ever get to speak to me. So, but it works because it means he can then just get on with managing my calendar, and I don't have to look at it again until it turns up saying you need to prepare for this meeting, or these are the meetings you've got today. And with email, we have a really great system. We have a 5-folder system, which means I feel really comfortable. So I have a folder that's called Today, and in that goes everything that I have to answer before I go to sleep tonight. And so I used to get 500 emails a day. Now I deal with maybe 20 to 30. So I have Today, and that's all I look at the moment. And I know before I go to sleep, I've got to have finished that. Then my second folder is, we call it This Week, but actually it's anything else that I do have to respond to that I don't have to respond to today. And on a daily basis, Matt puts everything up into the Today box that I do need to do today. If I'm feeling particularly virtuous in real life when we're not in lockdown, if I'm on a plane or something, I might get through both those folders. But right now, I'm purely concentrating on today. My third folder is a Matt has dealt with, and in that has got all the stuff that Matt has answered on my behalf. And he will say it's Matt, but you know, people who come through and say, can they have a meeting that he's just dealt with, or people who come through and say they want a magazine sending to them, or you know, they have details about an event or whatever. So that all goes in Matt has dealt with. Then there's a file that's called For Your Information, and that's stuff I need to read, but I don't need to respond to. And finally, there's a To Delete. And the To Delete file is great because it, you know, he could probably just delete them, but I get great endorphins sitting there going, and anyway, occasionally he misses something because he doesn't understand what it is. Very rarely, but it's good. It gives me a catch it. But what it means is that I was such a control freak. I got to a point where I had 25,000 unread emails, and he's really OCD about that stuff. And he kind of said, half jokingly, if you don't let me take control of your emails, I am going to have to leave. And he was half laughing. And I said, okay, all right, I think 25,000 unread emails is probably enough for anybody. So he picked them all up and he put them in a follow-up file, which he called Beyond Help. And then after that, we started again from zero. And it's so wonderful, actually, because really I would spend, as I say, something like 58% of my time going through email, trying to get rid of all the spam and the people that I really didn't want to deal with, and you know, trying to work out what was urgent. And now I just have this one file that's Today, and I know as long as I've done that, the rest of it's going to be okay, but the rest of it's still there. So I don't feel like he's getting rid of stuff that maybe I'm going to need. But can you see what I'm saying? Going and saying, I've got this system and maybe I could do that for you is going to give them so much time back to go and do the things they're being paid to do.
Yeah.
Grab that stuff while you can.
Yeah, I love that, Lucy. I think managing inboxes, I've got 5 that I'm managing for people that are furloughed at the moment, and I think it's a bit of my OCD, but some of them, I've never seen so many subfolders in my life, and I'm thinking I can't find anything. I don't know how they find anything.
No.
My director
Totally.
that I PA for is quite a control freak as well, and he likes to know everything. So I'm not allowed to delete things from his emails. But we've come up with a system where I do him a daily update. I start it from the morning. It's got his calendar for tomorrow, calls he needs to make, information I need from him, HR information, and then on his emails, I just put a category on it that I've actioned it, so he still knows what's going on, but he knows that I've dealt with it. It's just for his information solely.
Yeah, that really works too. We're time boxing a lot, which I found an article in the Harvard Business Review, which was about time boxing. And basically what it means is that both Matt and I have got calendars where we take our to-do list and we say, okay, what do I absolutely have to do today? And then I'm blocking out time on my calendar. But I also have in there time for lunch, time to go for a walk, when I stop to make dinner, when I'm going to watch my episode of Killing Eve and get my evening fix, you know, whatever it happens to be. But it means there's light and shade in my day. And when I get to the end of the day, I actually feel I've achieved something, because to-do lists are like this long and you always get to the end and go, oh no, I've still got so much to do. Whereas if you time box it, tomorrow you can move anything you haven't done into the next day. And it also means that, you know, Matt can plug stuff in there for me to do that he knows I've absolutely got to do, and vice versa. I can see what he's got on his plate. So if, for example, you know, with this campaign, this Help Us Help You campaign, there are things I wanted him to do on that for me. I can see whether he's got space in his calendar to do that or not, or what could come out so that he can help me with that. It just makes it all so much simpler when you can see visually what other people are doing, I think, even though we're apart. But Matt and I have worked together remotely now for 8 years. So, you know, we're really used to it. And in fact, one of the things we're doing, I think it's a week on Friday, or maybe it's next Friday, I can't remember. But anyway, you'll see it if you're a part of the Facebook group, is that my entire team is going to get online to do one of these, to talk about best ways to work remotely and what works for us, because all of us, all 8 of us, work totally remotely and have done for years. So we're hoping we might get some questions on how we do that. And we thought it might be a nice team activity.
With mine, I do struggle because I send him his daily updates, and for a few days he's on it and he answers, and then other days you can see he's just read it and he's just not replied. But it's more a comfort to know that I've informed him and I've fulfilled my bit and told him what's going on. But sometimes just too busy to react to me and respond, which prevents me from progressing with the stuff I need to.
We have a team WhatsApp as well, and I have individual WhatsApps with each of my team. And if they need something quick smart, they message me on WhatsApp, and that's just understood as a team that they might have emailed me about something, but if they need something immediately, urgently, they message me. So Matt will message me and go, you've got 10 minutes till you're online with Dan Skirmer, and I go, I know. But you know, it's bless him. I saw, are any of you part of that? There's a group on Facebook which is called State of the Executive Assistant, and it just makes me laugh so much. They say such funny things on there. There were a group of assistants the other day, and one of them started off by saying, my executive had 8 meetings today, and the only one they turned up for was the one that was cancelled. And I'm rolling around laughing, and all these people are commenting on it. My husband's saying, what are you laughing at? I say, oh, it's assistant humour. You wouldn't understand.
Oh, thank you, Lucy. Thank you, Claire. There's a question here. So we've got, when is the Help Us to Help You campaign launching, Lucy?
Monday. We're going to do some teasers over the weekend for it, and then we'll start the campaign next week. The other thing that I'm really excited about is, I don't know whether you saw, but we did that piece of research at the end of, not last month, but the month before, and we had over 2,000 respondents to that worldwide, and it was all about the state of the executive assistant profession, which you know, we've kind of moved on a little bit. However, we have got some really interesting headlines in that, all around working from home and how people find that and what works and what doesn't, and also looking at how happy people are based on how much training they get and whether they're allowed to work from home and so on. The people on the whole that were in the 8 to 10 score, so the happiest score, were working at home at least 3 days a week. So maybe that's the lack of commute. I know, it's really different, and I can see some of you really shaking your heads, and I know you hate it. And even for me, I work from home and have done for 9 years. And I feel very blessed because I've lost 2 hours of traveling there and 2 hours of traveling back, you know, and I've loved it. However, being on lockdown is different. It is different because I can't just go out and see people in the evenings, and I can't have my space. And when we're not on lockdown, I don't have other people here with me. I'm just here and I'm working, you know. It's a very stressful situation, this whole lockdown thing, and it's very different to just working from home. And I think you need to be kind to yourself and remind yourself that actually you're not just working from home, you're working from home in a crisis that is causing, you know, immeasurable anxiety to people right the way across the world. So it's not a normal work from home scenario.
And I think that's really good. It's really good. I mean, my attention span at home is quite short, but I think now I can see the difference between working now in furlough and working, and obviously not being able to go out, and also when I'm working at home normally, I tend to get so much more done because you're just in that space, that headspace, without kind of, you know, the normal office politics potentially going on. So I just find I'm more productive at home, but you do miss that human interaction. And I think, you know, when I said to you at the beginning, Lucy, I think a lot of people feel like they're kind of sat outside. If they're still with their executive, still working with their executive, they're still feeling a little bit kind of sat outside rather than in it all. But I think it's just the situation that we're in at the moment, isn't it?
Yes, and I think the point is that actually nobody is feeling in it because nobody is in the office. So everybody is just getting told the bits that they need to be told. And, you know, your executive, believe me, is going from meeting to meeting to meeting just like this. And, you know, I did yesterday, I started at 7:30 in the morning and I finished at 11:40 at night.
Wow.
You know, and it's just exhausting. And then you're trying to manage your own business in the middle of it. And yesterday was just phone call after meeting after, and it's all online like this. And you're giving out so much energy and trying to keep people going. And we've got so many people that we work with. I mean, you think about all the speakers that I work with, who suddenly have got no job at all, no income coming in at all because they can't go out and train, who are trying to reinvent themselves. And a lot of it's just reassuring people that it's not just you that isn't hearing everything that's going on. Nobody's hearing what's going on. So maybe putting some systems in place so that everybody feels more connected is useful.
Fantastic. Thank you, Lucy. And if you could have your final thought of the day, what would be your final positive message for the day, Lucy?
My final positive message for the day, if anything, is that we've been fighting for 9 years for our seat at the table. And we didn't just want our seat at the table, we wanted a voice. And this is your opportunity, ladies. It really is. I think, you know, you have got an opportunity here to show exactly what you're made of and to show them how indispensable you are. And actually flipping what the questions were that came in about do we think it's going to be a problem, I think far from it. Actually, if you get this right, they will understand exactly what it is that you're capable of doing, and you'll come out the other end of this far stronger and with far more opportunities.
Fantastic. Thank you ever so much, Lucy. And thank you everyone for joining. Thanks ever so much for getting involved in the chat. Really grateful. I'm sorry we haven't got time to go through everything, but I've shared with Lucy's email, and if anyone's got any questions, can they contact you, Lucy?
Oh, absolutely. I know that speakers always say this and say keep in touch and here's my email, but absolutely, seriously, I'm really trying to get to anybody that's got problems before we get to anybody else. So if you do have further questions and you didn't want to ask here or whatever, just drop me a line. I'm really, really happy to answer any questions you've got.
It'll be interesting to see what number you put under the signature for us.
Brilliant.
Oh yes. No, well, I think lots of people are getting the hang of that one now. It tends to be more people who come through and say, could I have a call with Lucy to talk about selling her this or that or the other, where you end up being at a number 5. But,
oh, thank you ever so much. And just to let you all know, I'm just finalising our Zoom calls for next week. But we've also sent out the PA Forum Mentor Survey. We're looking for mentors and anyone that wants to be, or anyone who's looking for a mentor. to try and utilise the skill set that we've got across, you know, we've got a vast number of members now, so it would be good to share that with everybody. So please do have a look at the PA Forum mentor and mentee initiative that we're setting up, because it's a great opportunity to help support those that are, you know, at the moment not working, or for potentially for the future. So thank you ever so much, everybody. I hope you have a fantastic day, and thanks again to Lucy, and we'll see you all soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Lucy.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.